The first unit is psychology of science and psychology. Then the second unit is stress. So I feel like today I should start with stress, just to break the ice, so that you get to know me better, so that we learn how to handle anxiety. Starting with UNISA, Open Distance Learning. Most of you have registered for, I believe, 5 modules for this term. So it's a challenge. You need to know how to manage your time, how to manage stress. So it's a good icebreaker. We can start with this topic. This is a unit. Your unit 2, stress. Unit 2 stress, it says learning objectives. You'll find your study unit in my UNISA. This module doesn't have a prescribed book. Same as PYC1501, they both have done a prescribed book, instead recommended books. So there's a difference between a prescribed book and a recommended book. A prescribed book is a must to have, meaning the examination will be based on the prescribed book. However, if they say it's a recommended book meaning it's for additional information. You can consult it for additional information. So for now, we only focus on your study unit. The study unit has all the information that you need in order for you to master the content and pass the exam. So learning objectives. This learning session will help you to define the concept stress, meaning you cannot go on studying without understanding the concept of stress, understanding the stressor, also understanding the general adaptation gas. Explain individual differences in we react differently to stressors. Understanding the types and the sources of stress, as well as understanding different responses to stress and stress management. So I would use this unit because you already know you have it. I'll use a different format so that I can be able to break down some important aspects so that you have a different perspective. So I won't use this. Unlike PYC, I use the same slides, but PYC will think differently. That I believe it will help you to understand psychology. So I'm closing this. I'm opening another slide. So this is the one. Like I've said, make sure that you switch off your video, you mute your mic. Yes. The question is, before we even start, what is your understanding of the term stress? We normally talk about stress. Now and again, we talk about stress. We normally say we have stress. In terms of defining, how can you define stress?
A sense of being overwhelmed.
Okay, thanks, Mamalo. Is a sense of being overwhelmed. That's a good one. Another one?
Feeling a lot of pressure.
Feeling a lot of pressure. Thank you. Thanks, Ori. Last one. Then we continue.
Feeling an emotional strain in your body or mind.
Feeling an emotional strain in your body.
Yeah.
Thanks very much. That's a good one as well. Kanya?
Being under pressure mentally.
Feeling under pressure mentally.
Yes.
Thank you very much, guys. That's what we need. The concept of stress. What is your understanding of the concept of stress? Most of you mentioned pressure. Some said feeling. Some mentioned emotion. Being overwhelmed. But what is stress? So most of your answers are correct. So stress is the feeling. Someone mentioned feeling. Stress is the feeling we experience when things are getting too much. You mentioned pressure, which is the same. The feeling we experience when things are getting too much. That's number one. Thanks for that. 2, in other words, stress is an emotional response to circumstances, events that threaten us or challenging our coping abilities or coping mechanism. Let's repeat this one. In other words, what do you mean by the feeling we experience when things are getting too much, overwhelmed, under pressure, feeling or emotion wanting? In other words, stress is an emotional response to circumstances or events that threaten us. So there are situations that threaten us and situations that challenges our coping mechanism. For instance, you wake up in the morning, you open your laptop, you make sure that you have data, you want to attend Mr. Zwane's class in order for you to master exam. Suddenly, there's load shedding or there are connection challenges. That's where stress is an emotional response to circumstances. So load shedding as well as internet challenging is a circumstance. Circumstance influences what? Emotion. Once it influences emotion, it turns out to be stress because it affects emotion. Stress is a response. Stress is an emotional response to circumstances. That's a circumstance. Circumstance could be unemployment, it's a circumstance. You're writing exams, is a circumstance. You want to get personal. Your partner cheating on you is a circumstance which leads to stress and through emotional response. So they say stress is an emotional response. It's an emotion that is responding to what? To a circumstance. Depends on the circumstance, depends on the event. So situation they either threaten us or challenges us. They're supposed to say it threatens us if it is most not us who are causing the problem. It is not you who causing the problem. If it's load shedding, if internet challenges, if you're unemployed, those situations are threatening. They are not uplifting at all. They are threatening. They are threatening your health. They are threatening your well-being. Then there are issues, circumstances, or events that are challenging. Challenging issues and circumstances is that whereby you want to study for an exam. Your goal is to become a psychologist. Your goal is to become a social work. Any other qualification. That's your goal. And it's what is stressing you. It's stressing you positively in a way that you wake up each and every morning. Your concern is to what? It's to open your books and study. So it challenges you. It doesn't threaten you. It challenges you. It's a challenge. I need to complete this qualification. It's a challenge. I need to learn how to drive. It's a challenge. I'm organizing a birthday party for my math. It's a what? It's a challenge because it challenges your skills, your competencies. However, when something threatens you, most is negative. So it's what things that are threatening most of the time, they are negative. Challenging things are positive. I will explain what I mean as the class continues. That their stress is form of stress positive. You want to achieve a qualification. It's not a negative stress. However, you experience stress because you want to pass. If you miss an exam, you experience stress because you want to pass, meaning it challenges you. But when it threatens you, mostly it's something that is external that causes stress, negative. Yeah. It is a physiological response to physical and psychological demand. But Kelly mentioned that it is a physiological response to physical and psychological. So stress is both physically as well as emotionally. Physically and emotionally. By emotional, we mean something that you feel. You are stressed. You feel it inside. Physically is whereby you see the reaction. You reacting to your stress. By reacting to stress, perhaps you panic, you shake. Then you can see this one is stress. You're experiencing pains in your back of your neck. As individual givers, someone when you experience stress, you experience headache. Someone, your stomach will be numb. So it's physical and psychological. It's physical as soon as you feel it in your body, or when both individuals see the reaction. Emotional, you can't see it. However, emotions influences the physical aspect. They say it is a physiological response to physical and psychological demand. it is known as stressors. So anything that stresses you, we call it a stressor. Exams are stressing you, stressor. Getting a job is stressing you, a stressor. Anything that frustrates you. Whereas your partner, you will put him in an umbrella and say, you are my stressor. Whether your neighbor is stressing you, meaning the neighbor is a stressor. So anything that stresses you, in psychology terms, we call it a stressor. If I may ask you now, what are a stressor? Perhaps you mention, oh, a stressor is my car. It's true for service. A stressor is my kid. He or she not feeling well these days, and I can't cope with work. A stressor is my boss. Keep on reminding me one thing over and over again. So stressor, anything that stresses you. Let's continue. Stress is divided into 3 sessions. So what I'm explaining right now is something that you'll find in your study unit, the one that you uploaded on my UNISA. This is just a summary to make teaching much interesting so that you can remember much better. It's the same information, just I break it down and I summarize some information. So you'll notice that in your study unit, the stress is divided into 3 aspects, 3 sections. Section 1, the effect of stress, the process of stress, as well as psychophysiological stress. The effect of stress, the process, as well as psychophysiological stress. Then the effects. Before you even study further, you need to be able to break down these terms. When they say the effects, what comes into your mind? The effect of stress. You could say the effect of stress. Another word for effect could be, not could be, is causes. The causes of stress. What causes stress? The effect of stress causes stress. With your pencil, with your highlighter, depend. You write here causes. Remember, you interact with your studies. You make it easier for you. Effect is causes. You write on top. Okay, by effect they mean causes. The reasons. What causes stress? Then the process. Again, you think about it. The processes of stress. What do they mean by the process? The process of stress. Okay, process is something that's step by step. By process, they mean step by step. What are the process of making a tea? You take water, you pour water in the kettle, you switch on the kettle, you take your cup, tea bag, sugar. So that's a process. What do you include in order to cook? So that's a process. Same applies to stress. What are the processes of stress? What happens when a person experiences stress? What does it start and how does it end? So that's a process. Again, instead of relying on this terminology, you write on top here. The logic behind stress, the steps behind stress. Then the last one, they say the psychophysiological stress. The psychophysiological stress, you need to break down these terms into 2. Psycho means psychological, mental, emotional, the mind. The psycho, the mind. Versus physiological. Physiological is a physical aspect. So it's a body and mind. Body and mind. You break the 2 concepts to make things much easier for you. Don't get confused. What do you mean by psychophysiological? So it's just 2 terms. Instead of saying psychological and physical, we said psycho and physiological. So it's psychological and physical, mental and physical. So it's a body and mind. Just play around this term. Let's continue with the what? Let's start with the effect of stress. The effects and the causes of stress. The effects, the causes of stress, you also find it in the textbook. The effect, they say the relationship between stress and performance. Firstly, the relationship between stress and performance. What do they mean by relationship between stress and performance, as well as the relationship between stress and health. In short, how does stress affect our health? How does stress affect what? Performance. So through terms that relate. How does stress affect performance? Because when you're stressed, most of the things in your life, they change. Because stress influences your movement. It could be performance on your studies. So that's how powerful stress is. That's why psychology focusing on stress. That's why psychology is, because they deal with stress. Any issue that affects you, any issue that challenges you, stems around where? Stress. You are divorced, you experience stress. Unemployment, stress. Your car is stolen, stress. Meaning there's no psychology without understanding the concept of stress. There's no social work without understanding the concept of stress. Stress relates to many aspects in our lives. So let's start with this one. They say the relationship between stress and performance. I'm going to read through my notes now to make sense of this. What I'm going to read is, you also find it in your study material, that is your study. So listen carefully. What I'm reading is it's just a piece of paper, my notes. I'm testing your listening skills. They say some degree of stress, so you need to know that some degree of stress is normal, but too much stress can be challenging to one's performance. Yes, you can't live without stress. You need to know that number one, stress is normal. For the fact that you wake up in the morning and make sure that you're attending the class, you clear the house, you inform the people that you're staying with, I'm attending a class. Please make sure that you keep quiet. Don't call me. I'll call you. It's part of stress because you're anxious. You want to be part of the class. You are anxious. You're so looking forward. So stress is something that is normal. You cannot avoid stress. Simple as things as simple as you want to make sure that you wash your car before you go to work. It's a stress because it's something that is in your mind. It's something that it does not sit well with you. That you need to wash. I need to wash my car. How are they going to take me if I don't wash my car? So it's normal, number one. Two, however, too much stress can be detrimental to one's performance. Prolonged stress can be indicated as a significant factor of illness. However, too much stress is not good for your health, for your performance. Too much stress, especially prolonged stress. So there's too much stress. Let's say currently what's happening, you are driving and you hit someone's car. Suddenly you panic. Emotions are high. Panic. So that's too much stress in that particular moment. Or at times when you are mugged, they are robbing you, emotions are high. You even forgot that you have an alarm. You even forgot that if I could have closed the door much earlier, or I could have perhaps run away. That's what normally happens. I should have took another route to avoid this. So it's a form of stress that happens suddenly, beyond your control. Because something that shocks you, something that is sudden, is beyond your control. So that is too much stress. They say it can lead to illness. Then there's a prolonged stress. Prolonged stress meaning you are looking for a job. 2020. That thing is affecting you. Bills are going up. Inflation is going up. You need a job to manage your family. You are doing a qualification. You realize that you've been doing this qualification, a clear qualification, perhaps for 7 years, negative. Now it's stressing you negative, meaning it's a prolonged stress. It's a stress that is a type of stress that you experience on daily basis. It challenges your mental, it's stressing your mental health negatively because you're looking for something that is beyond your control. That is employment. Employment is beyond your control. You can complete your qualification, but try to get employed in the required time. You see, now the stress becomes prolonged because people are looking at you. They're expecting you to be something big. They expect you to get employed. It's prolonged. They say prolonged stress leads to illness. Then in your note, you'll find they say to you the basic relationship between stress and performance was established by the author. There's the author called Jenkins-Johnson's law. Jenkins-Johnson's law. The author says that performance is arousing, but this is only true when stress increases to a moderate level. Let me make it simple. It says when your stress is high, performance does what? Goes down. The law says that performance increases as the arousal increases. When performance reaches an optimal level, the arousal are increased beyond this level. When we are too much stress, we are stressing the workplace or with your exams, meaning your results, your performance, because you can't manage the stress. The higher the stress, the lower the performance. That's the relationship. Remember, when we talk about relationship, we talk about one or more aspects. The relationship, you and your partner, you are in a relationship, meaning there are two aspects. So it's either two individuals or three individuals. Three individuals working relationship as well. They say the relationship between, so it's a relationship, we are influencing one another, it's one another. Hence relationship. Same applies here. The relationship between stress and performance. How does stress influence performance, and how performance influences what? Influences stress. They work hand in hand. So the key here is that when you are stressed, what happens to your performance? When you're too much stressed, what happens to your performance? That's what they're saying. Performance increases as arousal increases. They say, but this is only true when stress increases to a moderate level, where performance reaches an optimal level. When arousal increases beyond this level, performance does not increase. So in short, we have it's not just book, yes, beyond your high level of stress. Exams are coming. We are writing your exams October, November. I'm not sure of your timetable. For now, you're focusing on your assignments. So the tendency of the students, what they do is that firstly they focus on the assignment. You write your two composite assignment, then you submit. Then you find students waiting for October to start studying for the exam. So currently, meaning you are at what? Moderate level of stress because you're still doing your assignment. The exam stress does not affect you that much. We are at moderate level. Performance is fine. Even your assignment, they give you more than one attempt. Your stress is not that too much. It's manageable. You submit your assignment, they say resubmit. You submit. It's more at moderate, meaning you can manage it. Then as time August passes, September comes. Then later September, the anxiety is starting to pile up now. I have 5 modules. I need to go to work. I need to take care of my family. Exams are coming. Stress, what increases? They say stress increases beyond the level of arousal. Now there's too much stress. You need to be able to manage these things. So you decide either I create a timetable, or I take a leave from work, or I ask someone to assist me with the kids, because you feel like the stress is too much. I need to write exams. Yet that is stress beyond this level. Then if you can't manage your stress in that particular moment, some students they end up cancelling exam or avoiding exams. Some apply for accredited, for SAP. That's a level where your stress is so high you can't cope. Increased level beyond, then there's high stress. You see in your study units. See, it depends. There's a stress, a stress that is simple, a stress that is complex, as well as a stress that is novelty. A simple stress is a mostly it's a routine. A simple stress routine. All of us, we don't know how to do one thing over and over again. Do one thing over and over again. In the end, it becomes boring. You don't want someone to tell you about one thing over again. It ends up being boring. So those are, they say, simple tasks. The more you do something on a routine basis, the more you do one thing over and over again, it gets boring, meaning performance will be low because it's boring you. However, when you do something new, something that is challenging, it becomes much interesting because you want to make sure that you achieve it because it's new and interesting. Okay, let's leave that one. Then the relationship between stress and performance. Numerous research studies have established the relationship between stress and illness. This does not mean that stress is a direct cause of death or disease, but it certainly acts as a catalyst. They say this does not mean that stress causes illnesses. Stress causes what? Diseases. However, it acts as a catalyst. It influences the diseases. A person who has what? Cancer. A person who has what? High blood pressure. As soon as you experience stress, the doctors will tell you, stop stressing. When you're not feeling well, when your body is acting differently, they say stop stressing. They emphasize that stop stressing. And your response would be, how can I live without stress? It stresses me because I'm a die. They say no, stop stressing, because stress makes the situation worse. When you have high blood pressure, genetically, the more you become stressed, the more the high blood pressure goes high. So any form of disease, the more you're stressed, you make it worse. So that's the relationship between stress and health. But they emphasize to you, they say, this does not mean that stress is a direct cause of the disease or is a direct cause of death, but it acts as an influence and a catalyst and influencer. In other words, disease starts and develops in the presence of stress. Disease starts and develops in the presence of stress. You have high blood pressure, not because of stress, because perhaps it's genetical of food that you're eating. However, due to stress, prolonged stress, the stress that you experience now and again is challenging to deal with that stress. Jens has said employment, or you're going through a divorce, the type of stress that you cannot manage. If you're sick, they influence. We call those stress a prolonged prolonged stress, chronic stress, because you live with them. The culprit seems to be prolonged period of stress, or so-called chronic stress, rather than intense stress experience over a short period of time. People who experience stress over the 2 years period. So they're making a practical example. People who experience stress over a 2-year period before being exposed to common cold virus were 2 times more likely to catch cold than those who reported no stress. In the study, they say the psychologists, the scientists made a study to determine which people experience stress mostly. Then they used what? They used people with common cold. They chose a disease, that's a common cold disease, common cold viruses, like flu, or TB. They realized that people who have common cold viruses experience stress. People who have common viruses and who are experiencing stress, they are likely to make the situation worse compared to people who don't experience stress at all. You hear me? Remember, stress is in your mind. It's your interpretation in your mind. It's psychological, it's emotional. The more you experience it affects physically. That's the relationship. The more you stress, as soon as you see that you are stressed, meaning your stress is gone beyond normal level. As soon as you start experiencing some headaches, meaning your stress is too much. The relationship between stress and health. So they're giving us a practical example here. They're saying stress can make one sick because the hormones and the nerve pathway that are activated by stress change the way the immune system responds. They're giving you a practical example. What do they mean? What do they mean when they say stress causes illness? What do they mean when they say stress makes the situation worse? They say to you, stress can make one sick because the hormones and the nerve pathway that are activated by stress change the immune system. A practical example would be a cardiovascular disease, heart disease, high blood pressure, as well as stroke. What happens when a person experiences stroke? What actually happens when a person experiences what? Heart attack. A practical example would be when you experience a prolonged stress. By prolonged stress, a stress that can lead over a 2-year period. A prolonged stress, too much stress that you experience on a daily basis for a longest period of time. The question is, what happens to your body? Remember, when you experience stress, you become tense. Everything in your body becomes tense. You become tense. However, the key is your body, throughout your body, you have what? Nerves and blood vessels. You have nerves and blood vessels. When you experience too much stress, what happens to your blood vessels? Because you are tense, they become what? Narrow. They close. They become narrow. Your blood vessels are responsible to transport blood as well as what is oxygen throughout your body and take out waste products. We cannot live without blood vessels. Through blood, they contain what? Important nutrients, glucose. They contain what? Oxygen, and blood itself, water. Then they take waste product out. However, when you are stressed, because blood vessels are a tiny substance, when you're too much stress, they become narrow, meaning they are squeezed. The pipe circulation of the blood vessel become narrow, become too small. What happens when it becomes too small? There will want enough circulation for blood. There won't be enough circulation for oxygen. There won't be enough circulation for glucose throughout your body. Circulation becomes shallow, become tiny. That's the challenge. And remember, your heart needs what? To be run effectively, the heart needs blood. When your heart pumps, it needs blood to pump. Your heart needs blood to pump. You're breathing in and out. You need blood. There's need to be blood circulation. Through what? Through the blood vessels. So once the blood vessels are affected, they become narrow. Once they become narrow, they create what you'll hear the doctor saying blood clots. They create a blood clot. The blood clot, the blockage. They create a blockage because there's not enough circulation. They create a blockage. As soon as you create that blockage in your blood vessels, that's where your heart won't get enough what? Oxygen and blood to work effectively. Then people experience what? Heart attack in the end. Same applies to stroke. Your blood vessels become narrow in a long period of time because you're always tense. Once you're always tense, your body is tense, everything closes. Your blood vessels shattered. You won't get enough blood circulation in certain parts of your body. Then you experience stroke. That's the relationship between stress and health. It's a process. Stress, blood vessels, they become narrow. Once they become narrow, even the doctors will tell you, there are chances that the clots will be created in your blood vessels. By clot, it's a fatty-like substance that is created in your blood because there's not enough circulation. Imagine a water pipe. Normally, water moves in smoothly because they normally use the tap. However, for the longest period of time, the tap is not used. Then decide later that a substance come out of the tap. Dirty, that is come out of the tap because it's not used. Same applies to what? Same applies to your blood vessels. There needs to be enough circulation of blood. Yes, they say do jog. The doctor say go out and jog. Do something that makes you happy. The more you do something that makes you safe, the more that you jog, you attract positive emotions. Circulation will be enough. You need to sweat. Your blood needs to sweat. Your body needs to work in order to get enough circulation of blood. However, if you don't do that, circulation of blood becomes slower. So that's it. Blood vessels, how do they lead to health? Meaning any situation that you experience in your body, any illness, it becomes worse due to stress. So you'll find that information well in your study unit. Then there's what they call response specificity. There's what you call response specificity. But before we move to response specificity, let me explain it. Remember, I said to you, in your unit, you'll find Jenkins-Johnson's law. Jenkins-Johnson's law, they say at moderate level, increase beyond normal level, and high level of arousal. So here I was trying to explain it to you without using it, so that to improve your listening skills. Now is more practical. That is the relationship between stress and performance. So this is the relationship between stress and performance in practical terms. Like I said, at moderate level, stress is normal. True existing stress is normal. You are preparing for exams. It's a normal stress at moderate level. Nothing wrong with that. 2, if stress increase beyond normal level, they say if stress increase beyond this normal level, then the stress is what? Is abnormal. Because it has increased beyond this level, the stress becomes abnormal. Then you need to determine here how to solve the stress. Like I've said, either you create a new timetable. If you have kids that you feel like they'll disturb you when you're writing exams, you'll arrange with people that you're staying with. If you're staying with your partner, you arrange with your partner or in-laws to assist you with taking care of the children. You ask for study leave to avoid making things worse. If the stress is increased beyond your level, then at high level of arousal, the stress is high. At the high level of arousal, they say your performance starts to drop. You cannot cope now. Your performance starts to drop, go down. Some hospitalization, depression. As you know, that depression is real. Depression, canceling your exams, give up in life. That's it. They say when the stress starts to drop, everything stops. However, what determines this? What determines this? Factors that play a role in this relationship. Factors that play a role in this relationship. Complex, novelty, and simple. I've mentioned that simple task. Most of the time, when you do something, wanting over and over again, you become easily bored. Then performance decreases because it annoys you. That's why you find people who are working for years. Then suddenly they decide, no, I'm quitting this work. I want to go to school or I want to change a career. Then people will say, how can you leave your work and start something over again? It's due to stress, meaning this person has experienced have done wanting over and over again, and it leads what? It leads to stress. It's affecting him or her emotionally. It becomes boring. Like when you live in a relationship whereby you get everything. The people will say to, but you are getting everything. You look happy. You have your house, you have your car, but emotionally you are not okay because you are tired of living the same life. So they say they are simple tasks, things that you do over and over again. And you reach a stage in life, you say, I'm tired, I'm leaving. Because they what? They are dropping your performance. Then there's novelty. Novelty tells you things that are new. Currently, due to COVID, things are changing. We are doing most of the things online. I myself used to conduct classes face-to-face through the campus. I go on there Saturday, I see students face-to-face, but things are changing due to the world is technological, digitalized. Meaning the things now are now novel. We are doing things that are new. Conducting class online, writing exams online. You don't know me, you can only hear my voice. It challenges us to do better. You start the class, there's no connection. You need to be flexible. If you can't open your laptop, you need to have a tablet. If you can't access the class through the tablet, you need to access the class through your cell phone. Things that are new, things that are interesting. Someone may come and say, no, say, instead of using that laptop, connect your laptop to your smart TV. Connect your laptop to your smart TV to make it much interesting. Connect your laptop to the projector. These are new things. They are interesting. Most of us, we want to be technological advance. It's nice. We choose phones that are technological advanced because it's a new thing, it's an in thing. That is novelty. If something is new, we tend to increase performance on them because it's new, it's much interesting. Then there are complex tasks. Complex tasks difficult to achieve. They say if something is difficult to achieve, chances are performance will increase because you want to achieve that something. You want to make sure that I achieve this. Doing 10 modules per year, someone may come to you and say, no, I can only manage 6 modules. Why are you doing 10 modules? But you tell yourself, no, I will do 10. I will pass 10, 5 one semester, 5 the other semester. Because you find it as a complex task. The most complex, meaning you make sure that you study harder compared to a person who study for 6 modules. You make sure that you study harder, you won't relax. Compared to a person who registered for 2 modules a year, that person will be much relaxed and easily get bored and end up failing the exam. However, when it's complex, the more challenging, the more you want to achieve it. So that is Jenkins-Donson's law, explaining performance at moderate level increase beyond level and high level, also these aspects. So moving on, the one I was explaining, the relationship between stress and health. The relationship between stress and health, they say to you, this does not mean that stress is a direct cause of death, but it certainly acts as a catalyst of it. Stress is not a direct cause of death, but not a direct cause of death as well as illness, but acts as a catalyst, like I mentioned. Too much stress makes you more sick. What do you mean by too much stress? They say chronic and repeated stress. Chronic and repeated stress, a form of stress that also leads to depression. Being stressed by wanting over and over again. You want to get employed for a long period of time, you can't, and this thing is affecting you, either emotionally and physically. The people around you that dependent on you. Then the stress becomes chronic, repeated. When the stress is chronic and repeated, it affects what? Psychosomatic diseases. Affect your psychosomatic disease. Psychosomatic diseases are diseases that people are normally experiencing through genetics. Genetics, perhaps your father had high blood pressure. Also yourself, you have high blood pressure due to the genes. Someone at home had cancer. Because of that, genetically, you experience cancer. So those are somatic disease. A chronic disease that you need to go to hospital in order to take medication now and again. So they say too much stress affects these diseases. They don't play. They affect this disease. Your HIV and stress, they affect this. So those diseases, like I've mentioned, heart disease, stroke. Then I was explaining this before. The response specificity. The response specificity, it says they say that is that people tend to experience stress in a particular way. That is, they tend to have a specific response pattern in reaction to stress. As individuals, we differ. When you are stressed, there's a certain part of our body that reacts to stress because we are unique. When you're stressed, you know that I'm stressed. Why is saying stress? No, because my left hand side is numb toward my shoulder. We have different stress. We call it stress response specificity. We react to stress differently. Someone might say, when I'm stressed, I develop rash. We differ. So let me hear from you. When you're stressed, what's your stress response specificity? Anyone, what's your stress response specificity? So that I can see if you understand. What's your stress response specificity? Like says one, when I'm stressed, I experience a pain at the back of my neck. Pama, I can see your mic is open. Anyone, what's your stress response specificity?
For me, it's lack of communication. It's lack of concentration.
Lack of concentration.
Yeah.
Okay.
And for me,
Pop,
it's headaches.
headaches.
Yes.
Okay. Madira,
For me, it's poor sleeping.
who was sleeping on, so we experience insomnia.
Yes.
Okay. Thanks for that. Another one. Bitumates.
For me, it's headaches and I can't sleep also.
You can't sleep also.
Mm.
Okay.
Yes.
Chibu.
Tense body.
Tense body.
Yes.
Where in particular?
Muscles around the shoulder.
Okay, both shoulders.
Mm.
Okay. Ori, thanks.
For me, it will be throwing up and headaches.
Throwing up and headaches. Oh, thanks. Yes, you experience stress differently. That we call stress response specificity. Yes, you do understand. Thanks for that. You call it stress response specificity. We differ immensely. Some experience rush. That's why you normally use the term butterfly in the stomach. When you're in love with someone, perhaps you crush. Right? You're in love with someone, but that person doesn't know. Then people normally say, "Ish, when he or she gets closer to me, I experience butterflies in the stomach." You feel like there are butterflies in the stomach. That's how they put it. So that's the response specificity. That uncomfortable feeling in your tummy. That nice feeling. So English we say butterfly in the stomach. That's a response specificity. Yeah, yes, some experience pains in the shoulder, neck. Some even their legs. Some their facial become tense. So that response specificity is also fragile in what way? They say if you could experience a prolonged stress yourself, if you could experience a prolonged stress yourself, let's say shoulders, and it happens that you experience stroke, meaning you experience stroke on your shoulders because that's your weakness. If that's a stress specificity on shoulder, meaning that's a weakness on your body. If it's tummy, that's where you might be affected. At times you find that someone is experiencing ulcer. When you're stressed, you experience what? Ulcers. Pains in the stomach, you experience ulcer. Meaning that's a weakness in your body. So normally you experience stress response specificity in your weaknesses. If it's headache, you will agree with me that besides being stressed,
Sorry, Sia, to disturb you. Papama's hand is up. I don't know whether it's a historical hand or there's something that they want to ask.
Okay.
Papama, your hand is up. Do you need to ask us something?
Audible. Hello, sir. Can you hear me?
Yep. We can hear you.
Amazing. So my question was actually on the point of how we react to stress,
Yes.
that we react differently as the people. So I wanted to ask, like, is it generally, is it safe in society to categorize stresses as a small stress, a medium stress, and this one is an extreme stress, based on how different people perhaps react to different stresses? For an example, what someone would deem as maybe a small stress, but that small stress to someone else might actually be like a big stress in terms of how they react to it. So is it safe generally in society to categorize stresses as small, medium, and extreme? Thank you.
Okay, yeah, that's a nice question. You can lower your hand. Then I'll answer you yes. That's a very good question. Let's go back to the slide. Papa, question is that, is it safe to categorize stress as smaller stress, higher stress, moderate stress to different individuals? For instance, if I understand Papa correctly, you might experience a breakup, and someone you confine to someone, you go to someone and say, "Ish, I'm hurt. Either my boyfriend or my girlfriend left me." Someone say, no, how can you stress by that? Manning Amato, how can you stress by that? There are so many men out there, so many women. Why are you stressed? You lose a job. Someone comes and say, no, why are you stressed? You can start your own company. You see, so Papa, question is that acceptable? You can categorize stress as smaller stress or high stress. So no, we respond to stress differently. We cannot categorize stress as small stress, high stress. To me, not washing my car, perhaps a dirty car, I'm experiencing stress. Someone might say, no, why are you stressed? As long as the car is starting, is moving, why are you so stressed? I may be stressed by the fact that I don't have enough clothes. I have 4 suits, and someone has 10 suits. I become stressed. I want to buy more suits. Then you come and say to me, no, why are you experiencing? You need to start from within you, not from externally. You normally say that. No, you need to start within you, not externally. Don't be too mindful about what you wear, because it's internal. So my answer is no. We experience stress differently. You're walking on the street, you come across a dog, you start crying or you run away. You don't want a dog in front of you. Then I come and say, how can you run away from a dog? It won't bite you, but your experiences differ. Perhaps you were once chased by the dog and it bites you. Perhaps you were once bitten by a snake, so you hate reptiles. We differ. So there's no universal meaning of stress in terms of due to your experiences. Some people hate cats, not hate per se. Yeah, I can use that term. Some people hate cats or they're not comfortable around cats because of their prior experience. Perhaps the cat once scratched me. I'm not comfortable walking in at night because I once robbed. So there's no universal meaning in terms of that. You cannot categorize stress as small or high. However, we want to explain this. In this relation, Papama, there's moderate level of stress. There's a stress that is beyond normal level, and there's a stress that is at high level. They say to moderate level and normal stress. Stress is normal as soon as we are able to handle it. That's how we are categorized. If you are able to handle stress now, you end up making an example of the exam. That currently you have Mr. Zwane who will explain concepts to you. You have 2 assignments that you need to focus on. There's no pressure that much. You can submit your assignments. They give you second attempts, meaning stress in this instance is normal. It's manageable because exams are in October, November. They are far. Then they say to you, however, when stress is increased beyond normal level, this is normal level. When stress increased beyond normal level, exams are coming, suddenly it's October. You realize that I haven't studied. And there's pressure at work, pressure from home. My car is giving me problems. I can't cope. That's where the stress increases beyond level. It depends how you manage it as an individual. Jens, I said to you, it depends how you manage it. Some may say, no, I will create a new timetable. I will ask for assistance. I will delegate certain things I want to do. I will take a study leave. To what? To avoid your stress to move to be abnormal. However, if you fail to manage your stress in this level, suddenly your stress level is high, then your performance here drops suddenly. You can't manage everything. That's too much high stress. That's how you explain it. As individuals in this phase, we manage stress differently. However, we cannot categorize something as small stress as high stress because we differ due to our experiences. Papama, you answered. Have you answered, guys?
I'm answered. Thank you.
Okay, pleasure. Next question. Let's continue. So moving on. The process of stress. Remember we said there are effects of stress. Now we are moving to the process of stress. The process of stress, I said, instead of saying processes, the steps that happens when you're stressed. What happens actually when you're stressed? This will answer Papama again. This session is for Papama to answer the question again. The process, what happens when you're stressed? We have, they say it's divided into two. We have two theories. We have Hansen-Stanley, which is gas, general adaptation syndrome, you see in our study unit. We also have contextual model of stress. Contextual model of stress is another aspect. Let's start with Hansen-Stanley theories for general adaptation syndrome known as gas. Yes, gas suggests that there is a pattern in a way in which people react to stressors, regardless of the nature of stress. You see? They suggest that there is a pattern in the way in which people react to stressors. Stressors differ, and there's a pattern in the way we react to stressors. Different stressors, there's a pattern. Individually, we differ, there's a pattern, regardless of the nature of stress. When they say regardless of the nature of stress, whether you see a snake, whether you're unemployed, whether you are stressed because you want to pass your exam, whether you are stressed because of the weather tomorrow. Regardless of the nature of stress, any form of stress, there's a pattern on how to react. So multiple choice question, you'll see this. It says suggest the pattern. So guess that to do with the pattern in a way in which people react to stress, how you challenge your stress, how you manage your stress. How does it happen? They say we have three-phase process. This happens in a three-phase process. Three-phase process. Process number one is alarm and mobilization phase. Alarm. You want to wake up 8 o'clock in the morning, you set an alarm. The alarm will wake you up. Alarm. So in this context, alarming phase is whereby you experience the first contact of stress. It's the first contact of stress. When it rings the bell in your mind that, I need to do something. I need to achieve this. Or you experience danger. That's alarming phase. The first contact of the challenge. Alarming. We call it alarming. They say we become aware of the presence of stressor. Alarming is whereby we become aware of the presence of stressor. You are sitting currently as you are attending a class, the phone rings, you pick up your phone, then they tell you that they want to inform you that perhaps your friend is not feeling well, or someone that you are close to your heart pass away, meaning that is alarming. You become aware of the stressor. You are walking on the street, same example, you come across a snake. That is alarming. First contact of a stressor. Normally, there are announcements that today will experience load shedding, level 2, level 3. Then you experience stress. That is the first alarming. When you become aware of something, the first reaction is to be alarmed. We experience shock when our ability to cope with stressor drops below our normal level of coping. However, the body counters the effect of being alarmed by releasing hormones that help us to mobilize against the stressors. And they say, as soon as we experience stress in a first contact, what happens to the body? Remember alarming, you become aware. You press your alarm, wakes you up in the morning, ting, 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 meaning you become aware that I need to wake up. Same applies to stress. If you see danger, you become aware that this is danger. If it's not danger, I need to do something. I need to wake up and do something. It's alarming. As soon as it experiences first contact, they say the body releases what? Hormones that will help you manage the situation. Remember, when you experience what danger, what hormone is released? Adrenaline. You are driving, someone hits your car, or someone drives badly in front of you. You become angry. Yes, there is pain, but you become angry. The hormone that will be released is what? Adrenaline. That's why you end up saying F words or V words, swearing at the person because you are angry. That is alarming. They say the body will release irrelevant hormones that will assist the body to mobilize. When someone calls you and says someone close to your heart has passed away, hormones are released, certain hormones. You end up what? Crying. When you cry, the tears out. Secretion of tears, meaning certain hormones are stimulated in your body. That's how you react. You shout, that's how you react. You cry, that's how you react. You collapse. Those are reaction. It's the alarming phase. So they say to you, alarming phase is the first contact of a stress or something that makes you excited. In short, you become aware of the stressor. You become aware of the situation, whether it shocked you. Secondly, once you become aware of the situation, there's the resistant phase. The resistant phase. The resistant phase, they say during this phase, we try to deal with the stressor and coping level remains higher than normal. So in this phase, we try to deal with the stressor. You're driving, you experience what? Traffic. I have so many examples. You're driving, suddenly you are stuck in traffic. It stresses you because you need to get what you want. You need to get to work by 8 o'clock. Then you decide, should I go back? If there's an opportunity to make a U-turn and go back, you will do that. If there's an opportunity to walk on a yellow line, you do that. If there's an opportunity to leave the car there with someone and you hike in an oncoming route, you do that. Meaning that is resistant phase. You try to come up with solutions in order to manage the situation. Because what they say, during this phase, we try to deal with the stressor. The coping level remains higher than normal. If the stressor is dealt with successfully, it disappears. So if the stress is dealt with successfully, it disappears. Yeah, that's said, you are realizing that now that's too much of the solutions. Take a leave, assist people to take care of your kids, or you move somewhere where you know that you'll get enough time to sleep. That one is also advisable. You change the location. That is the resistant phase to manage the situation. However, if you fail to manage the situation in this phase, it goes to exhaustion phase. You are exhausted. Exhaustion phase. Exhaustion phase, they say, but if we fail to cope, we ultimately reach a point of exhaustion. During this stage in the stress process, our ability to cope declines sharply. So here, our ability to cope declines because it's difficult to manage the situation. We finally reach the point where negative consequences of stress begin to show. We reach a point here where negative consequences of stress begin to show. How do the negative consequences of stress begin to show? Your performance level drops. Your performance level drops. You can't study. You start to neglect important things. You want stress, you start to neglect certain things. Like, I forgot the name of the student. They mentioned insomnia. Once the stress is too much as well, you experience insomnia. You can't sleep without achieving that thing. Meaning you're in an exhaustion phase. You're in a stage whereby you're in a need to find a solution, because when you don't find a solution, your mind doesn't rest. When your mind doesn't rest, meaning lack of concentration. Someone mentioned lack of concentration. There's lack of concentration. It's difficult to concentrate. It's either you'll give up, you'll experience depression, or you'll avoid anything at all. So that is the exhaustion phase. So step by step. Alarming is whereby you become aware of the stressor. Resistance, you determine whether the stress is danger or joyful. How can I manage it? Exhaustion, when you fail to manage your stress in this phase, you go to exhaustion. Exhaustion is whereby you can't do anything. Your stress now becomes what? Physically. It shows. We can see it. We can see it through your behavior. We can see it through even your body facial. Perhaps you become tired, like you said. You don't sleep. Your facial also changes. You says, well, you're not good today. What's happening? That's an exhaustion phase. So moving on. We have what? The contextual model of stress. the contextual model of stress, 4 assumptions of the contextual model of stress. Now they are becoming much broader. Contextual model of stress. Remember, just say, suggest that there is a pattern in which people react to stressors. What is that pattern? The pattern is alarming, you become aware, resistance, you try to solve it, exhaustion if you fail to solve it. That is guess. Then there's a contextual model of stress. They are becoming more specific now. They say, remember, there are different theories. In each and every field, there are different theorists, there are different either psychologists, there are people will come up with a guess theory. Some people will criticize that theory. So no, theory is not effective, doesn't make sense. Instead, use this theory. So that's what contextual model does. Contextual model says, yes, there is guess theory, which makes sense. However, it does not include the finer details. Okay, let me fix this. Is that? Please close your mic. Okay. Sorry about that. Let's continue. Yes, there is guess theory. There is guess theory. However, contextual model says, yes, guess is an acceptable theory. It makes sense. However, it does not include finer details. Instead, they say, for example, it does not take into account the fact that events and circumstances are equally stressful to all people. Someone may find bungee jumping so stressful. Someone may find bungee jumping easy to do. Something that perhaps we would love to do compared to other person. Like stress have a universal meaning. No. So they are explaining that yes, this theory is fine. However, it depends on the situation. That's why I say yes, the theory is fine. However, it depends on the situation. We cannot experience things differently. Instead, it will be determined by the context. That's how the context comes in. The situation is determined by the context. What do you mean by context? They say there are 4 assumptions. No universal meaning. Stress does not have a universal meaning. By universal, we mean we don't have same interpretation on the events of stress. There are no universal meaning. They say community shares and beliefs and meaning. There's positive and negative. Stress does not have a universal meaning. Let's check what do they mean by these 4 assumptions. Their theory is correct. However, the contextual model says it left out certain aspects in it. These are the aspects. Let's check the first one, universal meaning. They say the contextual model says an event does not have universal meaning independently of the situation in which it occurs, independently of the person who perceived the event. That's too much English. Let me make it much simpler for you. They say, in other words, an event gains its meaning when it's perceived by somebody in a particular situation. The event gains meaning when it's perceived by somebody in that particular situation. That's what people normally say, put yourself in my shoes, then you put yourself in my shoes, then you understand. You cannot assume that it is a smaller stress or higher stress. Put yourself in my shoes, then it will make sense. That is because stress has no universal meaning. This means that one person may perceive an event as a stressor, while another person may not. It also means that a person may experience an event as stressful on one occasion, but may not see it as stressful on another occasion. Like now, I ask questions. People will open their mics and explain. Or you open a microphone and ask a question and elaborate. But not all of us can do that because what we differ. Some people are experiencing anxiety as we speak. So as soon as we say, raise your voice and raise your concern, it's difficult because they're experiencing what? Anxiety compared to Papama, compared to Mpo, compared to Kanye. We differ as individuals, so you cannot assume that we experience stress differently. We experience anxiety differently. So there's no universal meaning of stress. We also cannot judge one another. Yes, they emphasize in the end, they say it also means that person may experience an event as stressful in one occasion. However, in other occasion, experience is much different. For instance, currently you are conducting a class. Some of you, like I said, you will open your mouth and ask question. You will elaborate in this situation, that situation. Then you'll assume that Spamand has been quiet. Why Spamand has been quiet? Not that Spamand is shy, not that Spamand is an introvert. However, put Spamand in a different situation. Let's say open your videos, let's dance. Someone will jump that this is my turn. And Spamand dance. Dances. Meaning situations differ, depends on what you want to do, depends on what you want to achieve. It differs. Stress, there's no universal meaning. Then they say in a different context, a person might react differently. In other context, a person might react differently. We might plan a trip, me and you right now, and say we go for bungee jumping. The first one is on top of his lungs. I'll be the first to do it. Then as soon as we reach the venue, the location, let's say third one start. You see, you react differently in different contexts. And the shyest person in the group started. You see, no universal meaning. That's what they mean by no universal meaning. We differ. At times I don't want to do this because I've experienced some negativity regarding it. So I don't want to do it. Meaning it's related to me. Okay, let's move on. Community shared beliefs and meaning. This means that communities may share expectations of a stressful, of certain event. These individual members of the community are likely to see an event as stressful if it is viewed as a stressor by the community. So here they say, from township to township, from community to community, you experience stress differently, or we share certain meaning as stress in terms of stress. Let's assume that certain locations in Soweto, certain locations in Khayelitsha, certain locations in Ekurhuleni, perhaps Tembisa. From township to township, we experience stress differently. There are certain things that we find stressful. Let's say my location, I would say, we have a number of people who are smoking Nyahupe, meaning something that we share as a community. We know that in this location, the challenge is that people are smoking Nyahupe. We share that sentiment. There are locations where they don't experience load shedding at all. And that people experience load shedding on a daily basis, meaning that they are stressor. So community shared beliefs and meaning is a form of a stress that is experienced by the communities uniquely. One may say, in my community, it's high rate of crime. Hence, we have CPF, Crime Prevention Forum. Every night, as soon as it becomes dark, certain members of the community, they patrol the streets to make sure that they minimize crime. That's what we experience in that community. They differ. Yet we share the assumptions that Alex, there's crime in crime in Soweto. However, there's no crime in Tembisa. You hear people say things like that because it's what they experience as a community. It differs. But I may come and say, no. Soweto is much better. There's no crime in Soweto compared to Emlas. You see, interpretation differs. However, the community to share the community is the same. When you say the community is experiencing crime, that is community shared beliefs and meaning. Then with what positive and negative stress. Positive and negative stress. Like I said in the beginning, there are stresses that are positive and stresses that are negative. Because we live with stress, we cannot avoid stress. When an event is perceived as a stressor, the person or the community assign positive or negative value to it. When an event is seen as a stressor, you assign either negative or positive meaning on it, depending on the situation in which it occurs. Now they are making an example of a positive stress. A positive stressor is associated with a life enriching experience event. The outcomes of these events are beneficial to an individual. So if the outcomes of the event are beneficial to an individual, we say that's a positive stress. Meaning, you go for interview, you feel like you aced the interview, you have done well, that's your feeling, you have done well on the interview. You're waiting for the call now. While waiting for the call, you are not waiting for the call joyful. You experience anxiety, you experience stress, regardless of whether you have done bad or positive. You will experience stress, that anxiety. Are they going to call me? You're going to a date with someone that you love or date for the first time. Is he or she going to come? Is he or she going to agree? Because it's something that it creates positive feelings on you. Something that is you pleasure. Something that is, they say, life enriching experience. You want to you obtain your qualification. It's not easy. However, it's a positive feeling because it's associated with what? Achievement. That is positive stressor. Enriching feeling, something that you want to achieve, something that you expect to yield positive results. Then there's negative stress. The negative stress, on the other hand, they say it's associated with life threatening. It's a threat to you. It's not enriching, it's a threat. The outcomes of these events are harmful and detrimental to your situation. They're harmful, it's a negative stress. Load shedding is a negative stress because it's beyond our control. No one gets happy due to load shedding because it affects our business, it affects our study routine. Some people lose their jobs, crime rate is high. It's associated with negative things. Our food in the fridge becomes rotten. It affects our appliances. That is the negative stress because it's a form of a stress that is beyond your control. Someone may say, no, it's not beyond your control because you can buy a solar geyser. Solar geyser is expensive. What if I'm not employed? No, you can buy solar. We differ as individuals. Meaning it's negative stress because it's beyond your control. You cannot manage it. Even though you can have CPF, crime prevention forum in your location, you cannot totally manage it. So that is a negative stress. So positive stress is something that you can control. It's beyond your will. As long as you have financial assistance, it's for you to start and manage. You can also get a tutor. Negative is something that you cannot control. It's negative stress. Then the last one, perception. Perception, how you perceive the event, how you view the event. Events gain meaning through perception. Therefore, the process of perception is a key factor in the contextualization of the event. We have to indicate how an event is perceived and appraised if you wish to describe it as a process of stress. Here, perceptions comes here. The meaning of the event. Like I've said, it might happen in a situation that you once fought a cat or you're chased by the dog. And you develop phobia, anxiety against a dog, whether it's big or small. Meaning your experiences influence the way you interpret the event. Someone was by this. You normally see snakes on TV. You read about snakes. So my perception says snake is danger. But someone may come and say, no. It depends on the snake. This is how you should handle the snake. It's not harmful. You see, some people may tell you that when you are robbed, just relax. Keep calm. Give them everything. So it's due to their view, their perception. They fight. Although if you don't fight, because perception stress is based on the perception, how you perceive the event. Perceive it as a stressor, something that you can manage. Then lastly, under the contextual model of stress, 5 phases by Jordan. This is Jordan, 5 phases. 5 phases of Jordan, they are nearly similar with Hansen phase processes, that's alarm, resistance, and exhaustion. They are nearly similar. The difference is that with Jordan, there are 5. They are nearly similar, but they phrase them differently. Remember, this is Jordan, 5 phases. Jensen is 3 phases. Make sure that you can differentiate the two, particularly during multiple choice. Hence is 3 phases: alarm, resistance, and exhaustion phase. Whereas here, Jordan phases are 5. Encountering potential stressor. Instead of saying alarm and mobilization phase, here they say encountering potential stressor. First contact of the stressor. When you see that stressor that first time, you see a lion. It's a first contact of the stress. You see it for first time, you panic. The world we live in consists of various events, which are potential stressors when we first encounter them. They have the potential to be stressors, but they cannot be seen as a stressor because they are not being interpreted as such. What you see as stressor, meaning something happened to you, for you to say stress, it's a stressor. Let's make an example of a baby. A baby doesn't know that match is dangerous until the baby experiences danger on fire. The baby won't interpret the needle as danger until the needle affects the baby. They say they learn why they live. Doesn't know the difference between sweet and sour until the baby eats something and experience bitterness. Same applies to this. They say encountering potential stressor. When you experience something for the first time, it is difficult to interpret it as a danger or not a danger. You go to the relationship happy, excited, it's the first time, then things happen. Boom, you learn a lesson that I need to manage things like this because of 1 to 3. That is encountering potential stressor for the first time. You experience tsunami. Indonesia experienced tsunami. Durban experienced floods for the first time. Nobody experienced. Nobody knew. I can assure you that now that people from Durban, if it rains heavily, they experience anxiety. That what if it happens? Some they even relocated from Durban to other places because they have a fear that this can happen in future. So that is encountering stress. It can be floods. It can be simple things as getting married, new shopping mall. So it's different. However, in short, it's similar as alarming mobilization phase when you experience something, whether interpreted as a stressor or something that is positive. Then performing primary appraisal. Performing primary appraisal, you see danger here. How are you willing to achieve it? How are you willing to solve it? Meaning you interpret it. You see, you experience a potential stressor here. Performing, you determine. Is it a negative stress? Is it a positive stress? Is it something that is natural? You determine in your mind. Then once you determine, that's 3. How are you experiencing it? You experience stressor, you see a snake. 2, is it a dangerous snake or not? People who are used to snakes will tell you. Is it dangerous? Is it a threat or not? You're determining here. Once you have determined, this is where you start experiencing stress. If you see it as danger, you experience stress. How to experience stress? That's when we can see it. Either you decide to run, your blood pressure is high, you sweat, panic. Depends on how you see it. If it's danger, that's how you react. to that form of a stress? Is it threatening? Is it challenging? 4. Performing secondary appraisal. Secondary appraisal is saying, in this phase, an event has been identified as a stressor, and the individual has to consider his or her ability to cope with the demands of the stressful events. Now you decide, how can I manage it? You're experiencing it here. You feel it in your body. Things happen in your body. Here, how can I manage it? You have interpreted what is negative or positive. How can I cope with it? Once you have decided, meaning you apply the coping mechanism. In short, here you can write exam. To make it much simpler, encountering potential stressor, exams are coming. Performing primary appraisal. Do I feel like it's too much? Or these exams are too much. I'm writing 5 modules. Do I see it as something that is too much? If I feel that is something that is too much, you experience it. How do you experience it? You start to panic. You start to experience anxiety. You start to lack concentration, insomnia. You can't sleep because of this exam. 4, you need a solution. You need a solution to master it. Performing secondary, you need a solution. Come up with strategies. As soon as you get a strategy, like I've said, I've been repeating myself. You create a new timetable. Ask someone to assist you with your household chores. You ask someone you ask a tutor to assist you managing your studies. Depending, that's where you apply. You apply all the that will help you manage your stress, examination stress. Lastly, what? The psychophysiological effects. Remember, effect of stress, processes of stress, psychophysiological is the last slide. We have psycho and physiological stress. It's divided into 3. We have what? Physical tension. Physical tension is what actually happens to your body when experiencing stress, whether internally or externally. We did say internal, what happens to your body when you experience something that is shocking. Your breathing rate goes high, your heart rate is faster, you sweat, blood circulation in your, blood circulation, most of the blood goes to the face, your body becomes tense, all that physical tension. Some of you mentioned the response specificity, your shoulders, what happens to your shoulders, your insomnia, all those things are what? Physical tension, any form of a physical tension that you experience. Then the emotional tension, mostly we cannot see it unless you start shouting to express your emotions, but you feel it yourself that I'm not well. The pressure that I put in my mind, that I need to achieve this, I can't. That emotional tension, psychologically, yes, you become tense, you can't concentrate, is something that is influenced by emotions. Then this psycho and physical is a relationship between the two. It's a summary of these two. The relationship between the two. Psycho stands for emotional, mental, whereas physiological stands for physical. The relationship between the two. So this is just a summary on how to look into it. So that's it for stress in relation to stress. So make sure that when you study this chapter, the stress chapter, the key point here is know how to define stress. What is included in stress? Multiple choice question may come like this. Stress is a, you have to add 3 dots. Stress is a, these are the options. They say choose the most correct or choose the correct answers. I might add something here, the 4th, the 5th. Then you need to choose so you know that stress has to do with the feelings. Getting too much pressure, you're overwhelmed by something. Stress is either threatens us or challenges us. influences what? Emotional response. Stress is physiological, is a physiological to physical and psychological demands. You have a stressor. So we look at the key aspects of this. The relationship between stress and performance is be mindful of these theories. Jenkins and Johnson is the theory that determines what? Stress and performance. They say at moderate level, which is a normal stress, increase beyond normal level, which is abnormal stress. Then at high level of arousal, your coping mechanisms start to drop. Then they say to you, what factors influence this relationship, Jenkins-Denson's relationship? What factors? Complexity, novelty, and simple. Simple we said, when you do one thing over and over again, it gets boring. In relationship, they say you need to spice your relationship. In marriage, now it will remind you that you need to spice up things because it's boring. Your life has become simple. You even at times you have to that the psychologist has to assist in managing or marriage counselor. That is relationship part. Or you are working, you are doing one thing over and over again. Again, it becomes boring. Once it starts boring, the results that you produce will be low because you no longer find energy to do it. However, when something is novelty is something that's new. When you experience something new, you do it in your best of your ability. You get into a relationship, few weeks of the relationship, few months, people will still tell you that you become so excited. When the phone rings, you jump. You phone each other almost in every hour. Something that's new. As time passes, you get now you are used to the tender. You start to get comfortable. You don't do things like you used to do. Meaning there's no novelty anymore. Then when it's complex, not something that is complex something that is challenging. The more something is challenging, the more you want to achieve it. Because the challenge is you. The body is excited by things that are new. You are going to the field trip for the first time, you get excited. Because you feel like this is the challenge. You're going for bungee jumping, you get excited. I want to do it. I want something new. I want to do the challenging task. Then the relationship, I'm summing up now. Then the relationship between stress and health. How does stress affect your illnesses? I've given different examples. How does stress influence your illness? They say chronic repeated stress. The form of stress that affects illness is chronic stress that happens for a long period of time. Can influence psychosomatic disease. Psychosomatic disease that most are chronic diseases. High blood, heart, cardiovascular disease, your heart problems, cancer, HIV, due to the prolonged stress. The stress can affect your diseases, can make your disease to be worse. They say this does not mean that stress is the direct cause of the death or illness, but it acts as a catalyst. It influences your body to be affected by the illness worse. I did explain response specificity. I think we covered that one. The process of stress we did cover. So the key here is that guests suggest that there's a pattern in a way in which people react to stressors. The pattern. When we react to stress, there are pattern. This is a pattern, regardless of the nature of stress. So in short, like Papa was the question that he was asking, do we respond to stress differently? Is it right to say to people there's a minimum stress, there's average stress, there's smaller stress or high stress? No, stress that does not have a universal meaning. Hence, there are patterns we apply in order to reduce stress. Someone who have a phobia in standing in front of people need to do it gradually, need to be taught, need to be his or her confidence needs to be boosted continuously in order for him or her to stand in front of the crowd. Not instantly. So regardless of the nature of stress, we differ.
Can you please explain to me, because I'm getting confused between Acute stress and post-traumatic stress.
Normally, the difference between the two, let's start with acute. With acute stress, they say it's an intense stress, unpleasant stress, dysfunctional reaction. It's an traumatic stress. And they say acute, it's a intense, the more intense stress. Whereas the second one, you said the post-traumatic.
Yes.
Yeah, okay. Then the post-traumatic stress. Remember, the concept says post, meaning something that you experienced before. And they say it's post. Post-traumatic, it happens that either you get into a car accident, the event was traumatic to you, then later in the stage, it keeps on coming back. Flashbacks. People who perhaps experience sexual assault now and again, when they are in the gender that affected them, they experience that stress. So it's a form of a stress that comes back as flashbacks now and again, comes to you due to time. That's why most of the time you experience nightmares, anxiety. So that's a difference. I'm not sure if I've answered you.
Okay, now, yeah, thanks very much. Now I understand you. So meaning acute stress, it's like a before, it's like now, current situation. And with post,
Yes,
it's like the after effects.
Yes.
Okay,
You have
thank
answered.
you.
Okay, pleasure. Okay, thanks guys for attending. Next week again, same class, use the same link. The link that you used today for PYC1502. Next week, same time, use the same link. We won't send you a different link. Use the same link to join the class.